From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
Well, good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce, and this is Eye on Washington, the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, he's in a great position to serve those who have served us. We're going to tell you how one Nevada U.S. Congressman is in a prime position to help Nevada's and this nation's veterans, and he is my guest today, Nevada U.S. Congressman Mark Amodei. Thanks for being here again today.
Thanks for the invite, Marilee.
Well, it's a body whose work has great bearing on legislation affecting the approximately 340,000 veterans who call Nevada home. It is the House Veterans Affairs Committee, and today on Eye on Washington, we'll tell you why you should care that Nevada's newest congressman has been assigned to Veterans Affairs. We'll tell you the jurisdiction of the committee, and we'll talk about recent federal news most important to those who've served this nation. After Congressman Amodei was sworn into office in September, he anxiously awaited news of his committee assignments, which came a few weeks later. You know, a senator or a member's committee assignments matter a ton to the folks back home. You want them on the committees whose jurisdictions matter most to your state. Well, big salute to Nevada. Our Congressman Amodei has been assigned to 3 committees: the House Natural Resources Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, and to the House Veteran Affairs Committee, which is our topic today. When a committee lists as its first of the many jurisdictional areas, quote, veterans measures generally, well, that means that everything from veterans pensions to veterans medical care to oversight of the Department of Veterans Affairs is partly in the hands of my guest. And that matters a lot when your state is home to so many veterans. According to the Nevada Office of Veteran Services, more than 340,000 veterans live in Nevada, and that's a lot of folks, Congressman, looking to you to advocate on their behalf on the Hill.
Big segment of Nevada's population, Marilee. You're absolutely correct.
Now, what did you start telling us when we were in break? You mentioned something about your daughter?
Yeah, my daughter actually spent 4 years on active duty in the Navy as an officer, deployed to the Gulf twice. Very proud of her. And so her experiences and living through that as a parent, as well as my own serving on active duty in the 80s, are things that I think are good ways to bring those to the committee to help Nevada's veterans. And
maybe it makes you think you've got some special experience here when it comes to meeting those needs.
Well, you know what, it gives you, hopefully it gives you a perspective where you know some of the ground that they've traveled.
You know, during the campaign, you had your fingers crossed for 3 committees. You got all 3 of them. We're going to save Judiciary Matters and Natural Resources for another show. But how big of a deal is it, in your view, that Nevada has a congressman that sits on the Veterans Affairs Committee?
You know, Marilee, when you look at the communities around the state and the veterans population throughout all of those, they are part of the fabric of all of our communities. So being in a position of primary jurisdiction over their issues is, I think, one that lends itself well to doing the job of public service for those folks.
And speaking of jurisdiction, we're going to get into the jurisdiction of the committee in our next segment. But, you know, I thought it might have been news to our Eye on Washington audience that the committee has oversight responsibility for the entire Department of Veterans Affairs. It's you kind of look over the department's shoulders. You're checking up on compliance on a wide range of issues, for instance, like timely benefits being one of so many.
Yep, medical care, prescription care, oversight on budget functions, all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to being in the hospital in Reno, the home in Boulder City, cemeteries, you name it. It's kind of, your committee examines a lot of things that the department is doing. For instance, you said the effectiveness, you know, providing those benefits we mentioned, the quality of health care and compliance with statutory provisions. And one of the big things is efficient use of resources, isn't it? Yep. It's to make sure that for the resources that you get, that our folks get the biggest bang for their buck, and they're used to provide the best possible level of benefits as a result of their service. You know, again, hundreds of thousands of veterans are kind of in your hands here on this committee, coming up with legislative ideas, policies, et cetera. And you know, you did mention during the campaign that there are some Nevada issues
where partisanship has no place. And of course, veterans is one of them.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a Republican versus Democrat thing. I'm looking forward to integrating with the folks on the committee on both sides of the aisle, many states with large populations themselves, and making sure that we, especially as a result of the Gulf War stuff, we have a whole new influx of folks. It's a good time to be there.
We're going to get again into the jurisdiction. We're going to focus on that in our next segment. So I'd like you to have a moment to focus now. What in your view are just the top couple of needs facing Nevada's veterans today?
Well, a lot of them revolve around medical care, health care, those issues in terms of when you access the system, whether it's prescriptions, whether it's a hospitalization, whether it's something in between. A lot of folks rely upon that system as their primary provider, so you're trying to make sure that you provide a system that is of value to those folks who rely on it.
And on the committee, how much do you think you personally can do to help out those?
You know what I'm concentrating on right now is the subcommittee assignments, because there will be a few of those, and so I'm going to try to make those as strategic as possible for what we're doing in Nevada.
Okay. When we come back, let's find out about the jurisdiction of the House Veterans Affairs Committee right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Brought to you by the National Mining Association, the Frias Companies, Caesars Entertainment, NV Energy, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, Western Lithium Corporation, and Skyline Restaurant and Casino.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Heads we go, tails we stay. A coin flip. That's how it all began for what is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Charlie Frias, with a can-do spirit and support of his loving wife Phyllis, bought ABC Union Cab in 1966. They then parlayed 5 cabs into a fleet of nearly 1,000. And today, Frias has over 2,000 employees and was recently voted Las Vegas's best company to work for. Frias, safe, reliable, simply the best.
How will new energy technology make our lives better? Will geothermal, wind, and solar energy be a bigger part of our future? Yes. And soon it will all be in our backyard. Learn more at nvenergy.com.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of the Veterans Affairs Committee and why it matters to Nevada that my guest serves on it. We've been visiting with him, Nevada U.S. Congressman Mark Amodei. Well, let's share now the jurisdiction and a bit of the history of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. The committee was authorized in 1946 during the 79th Congress. Its role, according to the committee's website, is to be, quote, the voice of Congress for veterans in dealing with the VA. The jurisdiction includes 8 areas: veterans measures generally, cemeteries in which veterans may be buried, their compensation, education, and vocational rehabilitation, life insurance issued by the government for service in the armed forces, pensions of all wars, veterans hospitals and medical care, civil relief for service members, and readjustment of service members to civil life. That is quite a list, Congressman, and one that affects a lot of Nevadans.
Yes, Marilee, you've done your homework quite well, and it is quite a list.
You feel like you're going to be awfully busy on that committee.
Yeah, there's plenty to keep an eye out on, especially during this pretty active time for veterans.
You know, it really is a wide range of things, and in this lousy economy, I found it interesting that you're involved in matters related to veterans' vocational rehabilitation. Folks need jobs, and anything that improves that person's vocational skills, it's a good thing, isn't it?
Yep, it sure is.
And what about readjustment of service members to civil life? We've done a few shows here on Eye on Washington on mental health, and with the increase in the number of wars, the number of deployments, give us some of your thoughts on this and kind of what you can do to help here.
Anytime you talk about a family setting, then that provides plenty of challenges in terms of deployment, coming back from deployment, financial matters, emotional matters, marital matters, kids involved,
Sure.
all those sorts of things. It's a complex set of issues, and as part of the job which requires people to be separated from their family, I think we need to have a good, strong system for dealing with those consequences and those impacts.
And specifically mental health needs of veterans. Some studies came out a couple years ago showing large numbers of troops at risk for PTSD, substance abuse, suicides, and so it seems to me that, as you're saying, that this readjustment, it includes a lot of areas. It's vocational, it's mental, it's housing, and it's other areas of help, isn't it?
Yep, and when you talk about the extent to which we've been deployed overseas for the last 10, 15 years especially, and the impacts of that and how it has just basically continued to ramp along, you have a large area of responsibility in terms of providing those benefits to a ever-increasing number of folks.
When you travel home to the district, I know that you do meet with some veterans. What are some of the needs you've heard from Nevada's veteran community? What do they hope you're going to do out here?
You know what? It all kind of centers around the idea of service, and remember, now these are all volunteers. At this point in time. We're past the draft quite a ways. So these are people who chose to serve their country, go into harm's way, have done so admirably. And so when you come back, when we have the experience to look back on how not to do it, how our Vietnam folks came home, it's a big responsibility in terms of saying, thanks, we understand your issues, and we're going to respond to them.
When you got the news of this big committee assignment, what were some of the reactions of your veterans friends and the veterans community in general in Nevada?
They were excited just because now they've got somebody who they can, who they can talk to directly to go, okay, now we had talked about these issues. You're on the primary jurisdiction committee. Let's go to work. And so I'm looking forward to working with them, their counterparts in other states, and see if we can't, chop some of the wood in front of us and make it a better thing for all of them.
Okay, when we come back, why don't we talk about some big issues important to veterans and some recent veterans-related legislation that affects Nevadans. Well, that's going to be right after this.
Every day, thousands of people in northern Nevada don't get enough to eat. 1 out of 5 children in northern Nevada go to bed hungry every night. But you can do something about it. Catholic Community Services of Northern Nevada has been providing help and creating hope in our community for more than 65 years. By donating food, time, or money, you can make a difference in a hungry person's life. When you make your generous donation to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, you're helping to fight the scourge of hunger in Northern Nevada. In these tough economic times, now more than ever, we need to help those less fortunate. To find out how you can donate to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, call, click, or stop by, and together we can end hunger in Northern Nevada.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org. The National Mining Association.
You You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Heads we go, tails we stay. A coin flip. That's how it all began for what is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Charlie Frias, with a can-do spirit and support of his loving wife Phyllis, bought ABC Union Cab in 1966. They then parlayed 5 cabs into a fleet of nearly 1,000. And today, Frias has over 2,000 employees and was recently voted Las Vegas's best company to work for. Frias, safe, reliable, simply the best.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of the needs of Nevada's veterans population and what my guest says his committee gives him some say in how to meet those needs of those veterans. My guest today is Nevada U.S. Congressman Mark Amodei. With so many veterans calling Nevada home, there's a good chance that a lot of you watching or listening to Eye on Washington today care a lot about veterans-related legislation. So let's take a look now at some of the veterans-related efforts our delegation members have participated in or supported over the past few years. And then let's learn what my guest thinks are the top veterans issues right now. Here are just some of the recent legislative efforts supported by our delegation. Expansion of burial benefits for America's veterans, rent vouchers to help veterans in need of permanent housing, housing assistance for homeless vets, job training for homeless veterans, funds for the expansion of veterans cemeteries, guidance on how to obtain benefits under the 2009 post 9/11 GI Bill, development of community-based outpatient clinics, support for wounded warriors, mental health help for veterans, and dozens more funding and other assistance-related efforts. And possibly the most exciting current veterans news is that the soon-to-open VA medical complex we've talked about so many times here on Eye on Washington. The North Las Vegas complex reportedly is on schedule and should begin accepting patients next year. The $650 million facility is needed by Southern Nevada veterans who have had to travel to Southern California to get the type of care that'll be offered at the hospital, outpatient clinic, and long-term care center. Now, if you're a Nevada veteran and you have a need that you need met, you can contact my guest, Congressman Amodei, at amodei.house.gov. There you will find veterans-related information and also addresses and phone numbers for his D.C. and Nevada offices. You can also contact the Nevada Office of Veterans Affairs at 866-630-8387 and be directed to one of the 8 office closest to you. And, you know, since we're sharing so much veterans information today, I wanted to be sure to give our viewers and listeners that direct link to your office. So you might be getting a lot of calls and emails soon from veterans.
Thank you for
But,
that.
you know, if a veteran does have a specific need, they can reach you here, they can reach you in Nevada, and I think that's real important to you, isn't it?
Yep. And also to realize that one of the things we're doing is making sure that we're coordinating all the potential providers there. I was out at the base at Fallon recently for people in northern Nevada and was talking with the base commander there. They have some resources there that are available in some veterans context. So it's not just the VA. Some of the active duty installations also can potentially be a resource in certain circumstances.
You know, our audience, of course, they know you, they see your face, but what's interesting and exciting too to know is that you have a good staff, a good sized staff, and the offices have specialists in areas. You will have a specialist on water, a specialist on Yucca Mountain, a specialist here and there. And you generally have someone who's very well versed, including yourself, of course, but someone on staff who's very well versed in veterans issues. So you've really got that backup as well, don't you? And someone, if you're not available, someone that someone can always get through to on your office who knows veterans issues.
Yep, and we'll have a very strong presence in terms of the district office headquartered in Reno, in terms of having folks who know what's available on the ground in Nevada and how to matriculate that maze and negotiate that.
And I do want to emphasize again, at any time, go to amodei.house.gov, and you can go to the veterans page there and also find the phone numbers and addresses to all your offices.
Yep.
I do want to take a moment to let you update us on the VA Medical Center. We've covered it several times here on the show, and it is getting close to opening and helping so many veterans who's had to travel to San Diego and Long Beach for the type of care they're going to get in that facility. Isn't that right?
Yep. So it'll be a great new asset for Nevada, for veterans, and as you've mentioned, makes the whole logistical scene of accessing care much easier than it used to be.
We are going to close out the segment and hit our mailbag segment next, but I do want to just give you one more chance. Just what are some of those top needs of veterans and some of the top priorities you'll have for them here on the Hill?
Well, I think first of all, providing an organized customer service segment, if you will, in terms of what's your problem. Is it a Nevada problem? Is it a DC problem? So to provide that baseline of customer service, I think is very important. The second one is to make sure that we recognize what we've got coming in the pipeline as a result of winding down potential deployments in the Middle East, and so that we're prepared for that on a national level to receive those folks home, whether they're wounded, whether they need help with housing, mental health issues, regular health issues, all that. You've got a large group of folks that are going to be coming in and eligible, and you need to be ready for that instead of reactive, hopefully.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again on that committee.
Thank you.
I do want to say again that when you're with us next time, or one of the next times, we'll be looking at your other big committees, the Judiciary and the Natural Resources Committee, and congratulations on all three.
Great. Look forward to it.
You had a wish list for 3, and you got all 3.
I will be fully employed.
And when we come back, we're going to have our mailbag segment. It's right after this.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Built on a fleet of just 5 cabs bought in 1966 by founder Charlie Frias, Frias Transportation is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Today, Frias has a fleet of nearly 1,000 vehicles and more than 2,000 employees. As an industry and community leader, Frias continues to create the future of transportation technology and management and actively supports the community, continuing the legacy of quality service in the Las Vegas Valley. Simply the best. Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org. The National Mining Association.
Coming home can be hard if you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan. You may feel like you're all alone. But you're not alone. At iava.org, your fellow vets are all around you. Join our free online community, get the resources you need, and connect to other vets who know where you're coming from. iava.org. We've got your back.
And we are back with our closing segment of Eye on Washington. It is our mailbag segment. And in this segment, we tell you about an issue the congressional page of the Joyce Communications website's been getting a lot of correspondence about. We read one of your letters on the air, and then we invite our guests to respond to you right here. And again, Congressman, we're going to give you a letter from our general mailbags. Those are the letters we get addressed to the whole delegation.
Right.
Some are starting to come in just for you, though, so be ready next time.
All right.
You know, this one's on the economy. We get a lot on the economy, of course. This one's from Jamie H. of Carson City, and Jamie writes, Dear Nevada Congressman, Nevada's economy and the housing market continue to struggle significantly. Do you feel there's any merit to the idea of allowing some sort of repository at Yucca Mountain to open to bolster the state's economy by generating jobs faster than other industries are able to grow?
Great question.
What do you say?
You know what? I think it's part of the mix. What I've said during the campaign and continue to say is nobody wants a nuclear landfill at Yucca Mountain. But there are opportunities in terms of R&D for reprocessing. The French are doing reprocessing right now of nuclear material. It's not commercially viable, so we need to do some more work to get it to the point where it is commercially viable. That could be a good mission for this. Nuclear safety, nuclear best practices. You know, this last summer we had forest fire in New Mexico that threatens the storage of some material. You've got the issue with the tsunami in Japan. There are lessons to be learned from that. Why couldn't that site be used as a nuclear best practices center, R&D, those sorts of things? So I've said that I support something like that, other than simply, I think it's a missed leadership opportunity to simply try to zero the site out and do nothing there.
Interesting. You know, when we saw that letter from Jamie, we rarely get a letter that even allows us to discuss the idea of, you know, the repository in general. So it's a good question. It is an excellent question. It gave you a chance to, you know, give a different view on that. You know, you can send a letter to one of Nevada's senators or House members. You can go to our website at joycecommunications.com and check out more federal issues that impact Nevada while you're there. And Congressman, I want to thank you so much for being here today again on Eye on Washington.
Thanks for letting me come.
Looking forward to having you on again. That does wrap up this week's Eye on Washington.